fundamentally, in terms of what you're sort of seeking to sort of put in place for the board is, it certainly doesn't need to be very large. Even big PLC boards will be no more than sort of 10 people. So the early stage of a professional service firm sort of build out, you're not talking about a large construct at all. At some point, you can think about introducing a chair, but I don't think that comes, for some way into the journey. Certainly didn't, for myself. But I think, really early on, think about non-exec directors. I can't emphasize the value of that enough. And, what you're looking for there are people that sort of know your sector, your expertise well. And, ideally have been there and trod that path before you. Ideally have built and sold a business if that's the, the journey you're on. But, getting those people on your shoulder early is really key. And in terms of sort of cadence, there's a business to run, and clients to serve. So you don't want to do this too often. I think, a typical cadence would be quarterly, half a day every quarter was certainly the kind of cadence we stayed on. It then moved to 1 day a quarter. That feels about right. And the agenda broadly covers these topics here, which is, the sort of high level remit of a board. Firstly, strategic performance, to set that direction and to sort of, constantly environment scan and have that sort of strategic foresight and to keep the business honest to that. And also, there's a kind of a whole load of, conformance kind of duties as well that, as directors you carry. So you don't want to get involved in the operational side of the business. That's what you're kind of doing in the main. You really want to step out of that, but there's still a kind of an operational oversight agenda. And so typically, you'll have a standard agenda. It will be those items, and then you'll have sort of additional items, reserve matters they're called, that would kind of come in, on a more ad hoc basis. So hopefully some things to think about there. But the key point I would emphasize, there's sort of a sense when you're early stage that it all feels a little bit grown up, and, you almost feel like a, slightly naughty schoolboy putting in place a board. It feels like it's for a PLC. And I'm strongly advocating that you don't have that view. This is critically important right from the get-go. And I would hold this as being probably one of the top 10 factors that was definitely a component of our kind of successful growth. To make that even more sort of visceral, if somebody said to me, at a real practical level, what did a board do for you in the early stages? I would say, at a summary, these 3 things here. One is, coming back to that cadence point, it sort of ensures that there is a systematic regularity to this, stepping out of the business. And I'm sure you've all been there. Time goes so quickly when you're out on the coalface delivering to clients. Before you know it, 9, 12, 18 months go past, and you've not really, had these conversations. So that's the first point. It's just that discipline. The second point is, and it's a quite key one, and Derry touched on it, is that this definitely, for me, sped up my sort of decision-making to, sort of execution, mode. And if I'm honest, 9 times out of 10, when we would have these sessions and we would sort of discuss an item, if I'm honest, 9 times out of 10, intuitively, I already knew this stuff. I already knew that we needed to do X next or Y next. But the value of the board was, especially with the the external advisors, it sped me up. It kind of gave me that confidence to really move, at a faster sort of pace. So there's definitely that benefit. And then I think the final one is if you put well-chosen, externals on your shoulder, they've been there before. They all point to, the occasional bear trap that you're about to step into. And that was, definitely the case for myself. And, just with that benefit alone, 100% sort of, justified the value of the sort of, the external advice. I would say this, that what you really want to encourage at a sort of behavioral level is that, you have, very, very agitated intellectual kind of debate and challenge. The last thing you seek is docile acquiescence. It's something, as they say, only to be admired in sheep. You don't want yes men, you don't want yes women. You want to surround yourself with people that will, put up against your plans, sort of real calm logic and sort of fact that sort of challenges it. And, you can step into a high performing board and it can feel pretty uncomfortable, actually. It's very, very sort of, robust challenging debate. So that's what you seek. But, and it's a very big but, with the caveat that once you make a decision, on that kind of debate, and especially so, as a sort of MD founder, occasionally you have to be the impasse blocking, sort of a veto vote, not often, but occasionally. You know, but once that sort of decision's been made, that as a unit you collectively leave that room with not a cigarette paper between you in terms of the you know, the alignment with the decision that's been made, regardless of where you were, you know, during the debate. And that's what kills businesses and cultures, is that, you know, the debate carries on in the corridor and gets undermined. So if you can get that mix right, you know, that is right at the heart of really high performing growth companies. And, you know, the Colin Powell quote for me summarizes it perfectly.